Oh shit, here we go again.
What I want to say is this: if you come into a video with new gear and talk to me about the cheese build, which requires no talent, then don't tell me about heroic. Why not run heroic with the cheesiest build in the game and one-shot everything? Because if that's the level of player that you're at, you don't have any talent.
Oh shit, not good.
I know you saw the writing on the wall with these similar videos, but
What did he say?
listen, a mistake was made. Shout out to Identity once again, because he's really what the community deserves.
Gay!
Is a variety of builds that are not the cookie cutter, same old meta, yada yada yada. If you got like a ton of videos, but your biggest ones are name dropping somebody or ridiculing somebody's builds, you made a left turn.
This is me.
But for the most part, all the new stuff is meant to be done on challenging.
90% of the time, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Because not all of it is DPS centric, where you're...
I'm sorry, this game is DPS centric at the end of the day. And another thing on top of this, skill builds, there's no question that skill builds can be viable. There's no question other builds can be viable. They have a time and a place though. And what do I mean by that? Okay, let's just take a look at what this guy has to say. Now I can agree with what this dude right here says wholeheartedly. Again, nothing bad against the players or the community or the content creators. But some people can't put together a build half the time because they don't watch people. They don't do anything. They basically just do whatever someone might tell them or whatever just comes to their mind, and they can't even put a build together half the time. So telling them, and they see your video, it makes bad stuff for the community because you're trying to sit here and paint this as like the new meta, which Identity did and then deleted it shortly thereafter or reworded it because he got called out on it again. Don't believe me? He says it right here. Here it is. He said it himself. But does he come up with interesting and new ways to make builds? 100%. I will say that about Identity. He does. He comes up with new and interesting ideas. I actually gave him props for his little reflector shield thing. It gave me a giant idea, and I went and took that a while back, used it in the DZ, and found a glitch with it. How it was giving in sync off of the shield. But some people thought I was crazy, and then I shared them the proof, and sure enough, all thanks to him. So I have to give him props where props are due.
What did he say?
But as of late, it's been nothing but clickbait trying to make skill builds the most viable thing or the meta of the incursion when you know they're not. Are they fun and a new way to do things? Yes, 100%. But it will never be a meta. Now again, I'm going to say this right here at the beginning. You can make any build in this game. That's the one beauty about this game. You can make whatever you want. But if you're going to sit here and call things meta, you know, most damage you've ever seen, you better be doing the numbers. And it's as simple as that. If you're not willing to do the numbers, then you're going to get called out on this stuff, not by just me, but other people will do the same. And you're going to see that in your comments as a content creator. That's why when I say I'm going to make a codex, I'm going to go for the absolute best because I want everybody to have the absolute best. Now, does it mean you have to run it that way? I always say that. No, you don't. You can go a different way. But if you want the most damage, this is how you want to put it together. But someone says that they don't do the math.
The reason I don't get too in-depth in, for example, calculating the math of it all is because this is a video game. This isn't a math class. And for me personally, it takes a lot of the fun out of the game when I have to resort to such things just to satisfy the naysayers and skeptics.
No, it's not just about stopping the naysayers. They're naysaying because they actually went and did the math, and the math doesn't math. Your damage is not there. And you make a challenge to the community on these types of things, and you expect no repercussions to come back or people to prove you wrong? Really? And this is what happens. You get proven wrong and you double down. That's actually part of his second video.
Creating builds in general, I like to leave zero room for doubt.
But he literally said that in a video where it says, I want to leave zero room for doubt. If you did that, then you would have done the math, but you sat here and said you didn't want to do the math because it wouldn't, you know, it's just a video game. But then you want to leave no room for naysayers. Like, that's a double standard. It's a conundrum.
Striker skill build that I claim hits harder than any all-red striker. Well, I definitely still stand by that statement.
So he still stood by it and then went and made a third video. And on the third video, I kid you not, it was all about, well, I was right, you know. Well, maybe I made a few mistakes here and there. Maybe I messed this up. Oh, no, but I was right. And again, if you're right, you would have done the math. That's the whole thing. Do the math. It's not that hard. It's not because you can't do the math or that the math might not prove you right or wrong, but it prevents anybody from naysaying that you were wrong.
Anyone who knows me understands that I'm just not that kind of content creator who intentionally misleads the community.
Yeah, okay. Yet in this video a while back, I would say about a year ago, he actually sat here and said that you could be 100% pulse resistance, but he had a secondary blue mod on his chest piece. Then, shortly thereafter, he has to make this video because they came out with an update later on stating that, yeah, we realize you have to be at 105, which I proved in one of my videos that you had to be at 105% to be pulse resistant, and he sat here and had to make another video because he was wrong, because he didn't put it to the test. I'm going to let that sink in for 1 second for some of y'all. He doesn't want to do the math, doesn't want to do the actual testing of the stuff, doesn't want to put in full, utter work to make sure that what he tells you is accurate. But he doesn't want to get held accountable if he's wrong. And when he's wrong, he's got to do a retraction video, but he also doesn't want to retract it because he just like, well, no, this is just new info, you know, that I found out, something like that. He makes an excuse of some sort, and you're going to sit here and say that that's just normal, that's okay to do, rather than actually putting in the effort and the work like I'm doing right here in this video. I'm actually testing some stuff for the codex to prove things to other players. That's what we should be doing as content creators, is making sure we give you the best and most accurate info before we just go out here and post a fucking build or a video on it just for views and likes. So like I said in my community post, I knew exactly where they were going to go with this ahead of time. That's why I had everything set up just in case they were going to talk about Oxy. Because I knew that was going to come up. For some reason, I just knew it. So what I told you in one of my videos where I said that we should be doing better, that the community deserves better, I told y'all about opportunistic on your backpack. Because your shotguns increase the damage for the Oxy, because the damage to targets out of cover and the damage to armor, plus having in sync. You don't believe me? Go take a look at that video. It's in there. I told y'all about this stuff. But no, I preemptively did it because I knew something like that was going to happen. So let's get into it a little bit, shall we, about the Oxy and see if it's actually better or not. Let's just go ahead and throw this stuff out here. Because again, we'd rather be accurate with our numbers and make sure we have a maxed out build than anything. So I have right here, like I said before, combined arms. Now the reason why I'm showing you combined arms first and foremost is because this is going to increase your skills damage. After which I'm going to put on vigilance rather than combined arms, because I have a part where I can do this. And then we're going to show you the other piece, which is going to be opportunistic. Now you could actually potentially get more for your teammates by doing this, but it would be a waste because you're going to lose out on some skill damage. Though it's going to be a little bit of kind of like a multiplicative of the damage you're going to do, your gun and your skill, you're still going to get more damage out of this right here as a personal deal and handing this out to your teammates. So a 612, because you can get the faster reload with InSync, gives you the more multiplicative for the Oxy. because you have the damage targets that are covered. But the bad part is if you do this, you lose out on the ability for the capacitor because you go to, not combined arms, but you go to opportunistic. So if we use this right now for just saying combined arms, we're going to put this in our number 1 spot for our weapons, so that way it's instant switch to. And as you see, we have Oxy with the max amount of damage. The skill damage on here is max, not including, say, Foxes and Contractors, these 2 spots, but we have the most for skill damage. 3-piece Empress, 2-piece Brazos, and we have skill damage everywhere. So this is the max we're going to see. 294. 294. So if I shoot all my chems at that spot, say that's a named boss, we're shooting all of our chems, we got about 8 right now, because it's not on cooldown. We swap to our shotgun, as you see, 1 shot jumps up to 529, because we have combined arms. And our shotgun's hitting for, while that's doing damage, about 300k, because we got enough crit chance and critical hit damage right there. So we have decent damage on this. And we'll get into this a little bit more later. So now I've gone and switched off and I have Vigilance. We still have the exact same build on. Everything else, we have just simply switched out to Vigilance. So now here comes the thing. Everybody wants to sit here and say that, oh, Vigilance is give you more weapon damage. Yeah, but if you're in the fucking range when you're getting shot by those fucking bosses, your Vigilance is going to be gone. Let's be honest here. Vigilance is basically gone. So it's a wasted talent. Either go for combined arms or do something else. But Vigilance is a horrible deal to put on there because the moment you get shot, you lose it. So if I put my shotgun on right here, our shotgun is hitting for about 400k, and our deal was hitting for about 400 as well. So we've dropped a little bit of skill damage to gain weapon damage, but again, if we get shot, there goes Vigilance, right? So then here comes the better choice for all of them combined. Now, technically, while the math may not sound right in some people's mind, it's an average loss of 15. We're losing 15% weapon damage and about 15% skill damage because of combined arms, but we're getting both at the same time. We're getting both of these at the same time, so it's a boost to one side to take away from the other. So it's it's basically perfectly evened out. If you want to think of it this way, think of it as 20%, but it's 10 for this and 10 for that. Basically, that's exactly if you want to think of it in a simplistic way, that's how you can think of it. It's 10% here and 10% there. 10% for your weapon and 10% for your skills. But this one here would give you 15%. So technically, if you want to just look at it that way, it'd be 30%. And plus, you're giving that to your teammates of whatever their skills and their guns are doing of another 15%. So that's 30 there, 30 there. Just, you know, just simplistic math if you want to look at it that way. And we're using a shotgun for the Oxy, so it would be kind of stupid not to use it. So here we go. Boom. We're hitting for 254, nearly the same. Not entirely, but nearly the same as combined arms already. And once this thing hits, like I said, about 485. It's not even close to the 500. And our shotgun's hitting for about 429. So yeah, we got decent damage. But like I said before we get any farther into this, that is glass cannon, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the one thing a lot of people aren't talking about. Glass cannon, in that specific incursion, those suckers shoot fire at you, you're going to continuously take damage. And if you step on any of those little spots where it's the purple flames, you're almost instantly down. So is glass cannon your best thing to do? Is skill damage is the best thing to do? Absolutely not. That is why strikers is the better choice, because you're getting the damage of glass cannon without any of the incoming damage, and why it is the better choice. But here's some facts about strikers. The one thing, I swear to God, I have seen someone sit here and say, do not use the ACS-12 or the Bighorn because you only get headshot damage, and the ACS-12, you don't need it because you can use something else. Bro, you want players to literally not get the max amount of damage right off the rip and not have the best and the max amount of damage possible? Really? Like, forget all that. I can't stand it when people sit here and tell people not to use something that's going to give them the best possible damage, the fastest, and everything else. That's what they want. That's what players need, period. So with this, we have the ACS-12 and we have this basic Scorpio or Strikers build with the max amount of damage possible. We're using, of course, the Coyote's mask to get the crit chance, critical hit damage, and we have crit chance and critical hit damage here. Now, a headshot damage build, when someone gives you the other two Coyotes procs, is actually going to give you the more damage, period, and you can actually take out the drones with your ACS-12. But if you want to use the crit chance and the critical hit damage, it's really no difference. It really isn't. You will get more damage out of a headshot one, though, period, at the end of the day, especially with the Bighorn. So right here, we have crit chance, critical hit damage in every single spot that we need it. And again, we can trade all this to critical hit damage, and that's what I'm doing right now, to show you the max critical hit damage versus the critical hit chance. So you actually see the max amount of damage you'll ever see with this gun and this build, which is this right here. Now, the crit chance, like I said, if we crit, that's going to give us this. So we will still see the max damage numbers, especially with the headshot damage that this one allows for. Now, I'm also going to break down later on the second best weapon on here, which is actually going to be the Chameleon. And then the third best, which if you want to use that, could also be for an exotic, would actually be the Bullet King. But I'm not going to show you that one because that one's just kind of obvious. But then your third best one is actually going to be the new St. Elmo's. So, why these two? Because this ACS-12 is going to give us the max stacks, and then we can switch to the Bighorn and I'll show this later on, just to prove everyone's fucking doubt wrong. I can kill something in 20 bullets compared to this one. Now, I have crit chance on that one because this here gun has crit chance. So, the reason why I did that is to get rid of the multiplicative, to show you, because even the Bighorn just has critical hit damage. It does not have a multiplicative on there, so we have to show that, because if someone just puts on damage to targets out of cover, of course, on the bottom, we're never going to show the accurate info on this shit. So, here we go. Let's get our striker stacks. 2 mags, done. Here we go. Let's max this thing out. Look at that. We're already hitting with 1 mag, 200 or 2 mil, 2.277. My headshot one hits for 2.42. So again, it's only 200k less, give or take, about 200k less. But we're hitting for 2 mil per headshot on this. Now, if I'm critting, because other players are giving me the extra, say, crit chance from this, or you can put some crit chance mods on this to get it as close to about 40 as you want, we would still see close to the 2.2. We're going to see, I believe it was 2.1 something or other. I'll just let the numbers speak for themselves. As you see, we're almost close to 40. We're at what, 20? No, it's like 28. Maybe somewhere around there. Anyway, we can put another crit chance mod in here, but I don't have one on this character. And we would still hit close to the 2.1. But I'll show you that right here anyways. So someone else gives me the extra 10% from the Coyote's mask. Look at that. 2.16. 2.16. Like I said, 2.16. So let's get into some other weapons, shall we? So here we're going to show the Chameleon, the second best one. And again, this one doesn't have a multiplicative, it has crit chance. So we just basically swapped out some of these crit chance and we have a critical hit damage mod into this to give us some more critical hit damage. Basically kind of like the Bighorn. Bighorn has a critical hit damage on the bottom. This is going to give us a little bit more than the Bighorn, but we're still pretty close to it. Just to show the extra damages that we're going to get. Because again, it's not multiplicative, there's no damage targets out of cover, no damaged armor or anything like that. It's just crit chance at the bottom. And that's why we have these St. Elmo's like that for later that I'm going to show. So here we go. Let's max out our strikers yet again. Very easy to do. Now, let's get our body shots first. As you see, we're still hitting for a mil on the body shots. And it could average between 1 to 2 mags, depending on how good your aim is, maybe a third one. And now that we got this, look at that, almost a 2 mil. So we're hitting for we're gonna say an average, about 200k less. 200k less than a Bighorn with the extra critical chances on there, and not anybody else giving us any other boosts. So again, still pretty high. So Now that we have that, let's go to the St. Elmo's with the crit chance, because again, we just put on a critical hit damage mod on here. Let's see how close this thing hits. 1.4. 1.4. Case and point. Without the damage to targets out of cover, which I'm not saying you shouldn't have on this, you still do not get anywhere close to the Bighorn's damage without that. Period. At the end of the story, the Bighorn wins every single day. And just to prove it, while we still have the strikers on, we just quickly swap to it. 2.0, we're going to hit 2.1, 2.2, 2.2 right there with that extra critical hit damage mod in there, 2.2. Boom. Bighorn wins every single day. And then I know there's going to be a naysayer, just like the identity says, well, hey, how about this, sweetheart? Think about this for 1 second. Your St. Elmo's has, what, 70 in the mag? I reload one time. I've already still got all my damage because I built that up from the Bighorn. By the time I reload, your 70 mag is done. You have to reload. I've got 80 rounds out, and I've got that higher damage off the rip. So 80 versus 70, even if I did a 70 versus 70, the Bighorn still wins at the end of the day, even without the damage to targets out of cover. If I do this against the damage to targets out of cover, the Bighorn still out DPSs that, because the strikers gives you weapon handling to allow you to hit those shots even better. That is why when people sit here and say, oh, you shouldn't use this, just use this right here. Yeah, but you're not going to get the most damage out of it, period.